Specifically?
Times
Square. Okay, so a lot of people think about, when you think about New York City, they think about Times Square, Rockefeller Center, Central Park. So what we're going to do is we're going to look beyond that and take a look at Manhattan, in the real world. So there are 5 boroughs in New York City. Anybody can name them. Come on.
Queens.
Yep.
Brooklyn. Manhattan.
Brighton.
Awesome. Okay, so this one is boring. This one is, so I pretty much have only been to the 3 boroughs, but not the Bronx. Okay, so another quiz. These are neighborhoods in the city. Anybody can name them. What do they mean? Tribeca, what's Tribeca? Before the answers come up.
The triangle.
Okay. So my favorite is Dumbo. There's the down under the Manhattan Bridge overpass, which is a neighborhood in Brooklyn. All right, we'll start from the south end of Manhattan, which is Financial District. There's really nothing much here besides office buildings and really, really new apartments. The heart of Financial District is said to be at the corner of Wall Street and Broad Street. Okay, so then we're going to move up northwest to Tribeca. It's pretty much, so Tribeca is triangle below Canal Street, and the history behind the name is this street is called Lisbonard, and the residents on this street wanted to name their block association called the Triangle Below Canal Block Association. So that's how the Tribeca came about. So these are the buildings you might see in Tribeca. They're characterized with like lofts, art galleries, really high ceilings, and all that. Celebrities, a lot of celebrities live in Tribeca, like Mariah Carey, Jay-Z, Beyonce, Justin Timberlake, Mr. Curly hair. Okay, so Chinatown is basically the grittiest and dirtiest neighborhood in Manhattan, but it's also my favorite. Because of the food, of course. So Chinatown started around like Mott, Park, Pell, and Dwyer Street. So the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965 brought in a lot of people from Hong Kong. And then later in the 1980s and 90s, that makes sense. A lot of people from mainland China came as well. So these are like, this is Dwyer's, this is Pell Street, this is Mott Street. So even within Manhattan, the Chinatown Manhattan, the area is spread, it's segregated by people from the different regions. So the Cantonese and Toishanese, they live around here. And then you have the Vietnamese around here. And then you have the Fujianese, like right about here. And you can tell the difference because this area is really dodgy. And you can tell when you go in the area, you can hear their accents change. So okay, so we go to the Lower East Side now. This area used to be a lower working class neighborhood populated by like the Irish, the Italians, the Ukrainians, and Germans. Now it's mostly Puerto Rican and Dominican, but it's also, a lot of the area has been gentrified into very, very cool and hipster looking areas. Okay, Soho, south of Houston, not south of Houston, south of Houston. The buildings here are very much similar to Tribeca, so tall ceilings, art galleries, and that all the sort of thing. It's also the shopping central, I think. A lot of boutiques, a lot of street vendors and stuff like that. Okay, so the village, also Greenwich Village is also known as the Village. It was once a rural hamlet, so that's why you see these crazy street-like things, which is really different from the grid-like system of the rest of Manhattan. A lot of jazz clubs in here, so one of my favorite neighborhoods as well. Okay, so East Village, we'll go to the east side. East Village is really big, so there's really smaller communities in here, like you have Alphabet City, which we'll talk about later, St. Mark's Place, the Bowery, and Losida, which is like right around somewhere here. Right. Important thing, McSorley's Old Ale House is New York City's oldest Irish tavern. I hang out there a lot. Okay, so Alphabet City. So basically it's called the Alphabet City because of the avenue names. Since Manhattan there's only the avenue A, B, C, and D, the only ones that have single letter names in the city. Alright, so the more boring side of Manhattan is Upper West Side, I think. Upper West Side is said to be the home to New York City's cultural and artistic side of the people, and Upper East Side is more commercial and business type people. So one of the most famous landmarks is, you can't see, but it's like right around here. It's the Dakota, where John Lennon used to live. Upper East Side. So this area is the most affluent area in the island. In 2006, a square foot was $1,200. So it's also home to many, a lot of diplomatic missions and embassies. Next up is Harlem. I've only been here twice. Once to a Latino restaurant or something like that, and then once to a jazz club. So it was originally a Dutch village. That's why the name is after a Dutch village in Netherlands, spelled Haarlem. Now we have going to Spanish Harlem, which is a section of Harlem where it's mostly populated by Latino communities. So according to a report in 2008, the people here have very little access to fresh food, so there's a lot of health-related diseases and stuff like that. So you notice that I skipped the whole section in the island called Midtown. It's basically boring, boring, especially Midtown East. Chelsea and Hell's Kitchen are alright. There's some stuff to do there, and I live right about here, boring central. So besides Manhattan, there's a lot of other stuff outside Manhattan, like Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx. There's a really good museum up in the Bronx. So the next step is, I guess, to explore outside Manhattan, because a lot of people who live in Manhattan don't ever leave the island. I have friends like that. This is a picture I took of the Brooklyn Bridge across in the Brooklyn side.